Hello? Ah, Windows Update. Windows Update. Yes, last night. So I just realized I've been talking for a couple minutes and my mic was off. I had to reset the mic. Yes, you missed where I accidentally started to call this game Kingdom Hearts instead of Connected Hearts. Well, don't you love those? Don't you love when the Windows update just kind of messes with the OBS settings? I sure do. Anyway, we got two more doors, but the only one we can do is this one right here with no boards on it and no locks. So we're gonna go through this door that says the Kingdom of the Sun. And since my mic was muted, hello. I'll say it again. I'm Chris474 and I'm back with more Connected Hearts. So let's go ahead and get right back into it. Suddenly I wake up with the sun hitting me in the face. I make a disgusted face at the same time I cover my eyes with one hand. Clean off my glasses real quick. They do get dirty real easily. My head is spinning. I feel completely lost. I can't even describe it. But I don't know where is up and where down. I don't know if I'm standing or laying down, if I'm immobile or moving at great speed. It should be simple. You wake up in your bed after a long dream. However, there's nothing simple about this awakening. It's like if I had fallen asleep in a maelstrom. Thankfully, I don't feel nausea, but thinking too much about it was starting to produce a little of it. This game does have some grammatical and spelling errors, like in the last section, in the previous section that we played on Sunday. The game repeatedly misspelled diary as dairy. I guess nobody did spell checking for the final release of this game, but it's too funny. I take I take a deep breath trying to calm my mind. Then I force myself to open my eyes, not being prepared for what I would find. I couldn't even imagine where could I be. I didn't want to wait anymore. It was then when I finally opened my eyes that tongue-tied. It was then when I finally opened my eyes that the sensation of confusion and nausea disappeared completely. It was sudden. They left me in just the time it took me to open my eyelids and see what was truly before me. Ah? I exclaimed, confused, seeing that I am in what appears to be a park. I was sleep. Take a drink of water. Maybe that'll help. Okay. I was sleeping placidly in the grass until the sun shone on my face. However, far from being comforting, that confuses me even more. The park I am now in The park I am now is no any park. It looks very ordinary at plain sight. There are trees, benches for people to sit, a sandbox, slides and swings to play. Not only that, but there are also people. I can barely believe it. My heart jumps when I realize that. I open my mouth wide from the incredulity, holding my breath longer than I should. There is people around, but not human beings. At least they don't seem to be. It is hard for me to describe it. I blink as I think in the right words, never looking away from them. They appear to be mannequins with a smiling metal mask in their faces, but they don't seem to be made of wood. It's more like they are made with mist, as if they were ghost dolls. And that doesn't sound creepy at all. The clothes they are wearing is very different from the actual world. Dresses and suits more proper for a fairy tale. Some even wear a crown on top of their heads. They play and laugh with a frozen smile in their faces. Their voices are metallic as if they were robots following a program, faking laughs. Just thinking about it sends chills to my spine. It is simply disturbing. They don't look dangerous, but the simple idea of something so strange, so unreal, shakes my very core. My mind struggles to comprehend it, while my heart feels heavy with the anxiety. Where am I? Where am I? Where am I? I can't stop. I can't stop making myself that question. I simply can't accept what there is in front of my eyes. Everything this night has been strange, impressionable, confusing, magical even, but none of that compares to this place. Just here in the middle of a park, watching people have fun, is enough for me to say this is the scenery of a deformed, unreal world. Oh. Suddenly exclaimed a voice near me. I trembled from the surprise, turning instantly towards it, a feminine voice. Well, what is a real one doing around here? Said one of those strange beings standing right next to me. I didn't realize when it appeared, but I'm not surprised since I was very distracted. She was wearing a mask with a big smile, more malicious than happy. She looks at my face. Does it mean, or I think grammatical errors are getting occurring more and more as the game goes on. Oh well. She looks at my face me from above. Well, that sentence is weird. I almost jumped surprised from the impression, and then quickly stand up. What, me? Nothing. Don't pay attention to me. Just ignore me. Was my poor answer, said so nervously that it would make a lie detector laugh. Curiously, she laughs too, covering the mouth of the mask with both hands for a second. How normal are you? She exclaimed before laughing again. I have no idea what she means. Normal? I repeated, confused. The way she talks doesn't tell me if it is a good or bad thing. Yes, normal. Something strange here. Too strange. Non-existent, to be honest. but funny enough, it is still called normal. How can you call something normal if it doesn't exist here, do you know? After saying that, the masked doll stares at me. I may not be able to see her eyes, but I can feel her piercing look. Suddenly I feel a chill run down my spine. She exclaimed, impatient. At the same time, she tilts her head. Well, I guess it could be because at some point it was normal and the name stuck to it. I have no idea what I'm saying. I just say the first thing that crossed my mind. The masked doll takes a step back and then covers her face with both hands. Seeing her do that fills my heart with anxiety. I just don't know what to expect. Correct. That is exactly what happened. She then suddenly said, almost making me jump. I got scared at how excited she sounded. Then she puts her hands together as if she was praying. Well, since you answered my question, I'll answer one of yours. I blink. My lips move, but no sound comes from it. Questions I have plenty, but I don't know which one to make first. However, that wasn't necessary. This place is known of the Kingdom of the Sun, and what you see now are its inhabitants. They have no name, but as you can see, they are no human or animal. She said, talking with perfect calm, as if she could read my mind. I shiver after hearing her, then turn around to look at the strange being that continued playing as if nothing else mattered. After a couple of seconds, I look back at the masked doll. Why didn't you wait for me to ask the question? I blink confused. I'm not angry, just curious. Because there was no need for it. All visitors asked the same. The masked doll takes a step closer, reducing the distance between the two. That makes me feel slightly uncomfortable. Since I don't have a name, I won't ask for yours. This place is weird. It's an unreal world, and for that very reason, the inhabitants can't see anything that is real. They can't see you. They can't see me. I interrupt her with that question. Suddenly I feel cold. It's not a chill. It's more as if someone has stolen all the heat from my body. I feel a big hole in my heart, not knowing why. The masked doll shakes her head side to side. No, no one can do it, except for me, because I am very, very special. After saying that, she covers her lips with both hands and pretends to laugh. I don't know if she was trying to be funny, but it is uncomfortable for me. She then fixes her eyes on me. I tremble, surprised. It makes no sense, but even while wearing a mask, I can tell what her expression is, or at least imagine it. However, there is another person here who can see you. The only person who can help you with your problems. After saying that, she plays with her fingers. It seems she can't remain still for a moment. But I feel she does that only because she is in front of me. In other words, it's toying with me. How do you know I have problems? Because you're a real one in a world where nothing is real. You don't belong here and will never do. A fish outside of the water has big problems. And you are that fish right now. After saying that, she pretends to laugh again. My heart instantly becomes heavy with anxiety. There's a part of me that understands what it means. In silence, I look away to see my surroundings one more time. It is impossible for me to feel at home at a world like this, no matter how much time passes. And honestly, I hope it's not much time. I would like to get out and go back to where I belong as soon as possible. I blink and look back at her, who remains completely still as if she had suddenly turned to stone. I swallow saliva and try to ignore it. Well, who is the person you were talking about? The masked doll doesn't react. She remains perfectly immobile and in silent, for long seconds that feel eternal, and then suddenly makes a reverence to me with a move so sudden I tremble from the impression. He is the king of this world, of course. He knows all you need to, although I must warn you to be careful. He is not particularly kind to the real ones. After saying that, she goes quiet and immobile. I wait for her to say something more, to point out where I have to go or give me another clue, but my wait is in vain. Confused, I touch her in the shoulder with my index finger. Once again, I expect her to make a sudden move, but it doesn't happen. Even when I shake her, she doesn't react again, as if she was a toy which ran out of battery. Finally, I get bored of shaking her, realizing she won't move again. Now the only thing left is to confirm her words. Carefully, I walk towards a group of what seems to be children playing in the park. My heart beats overflowing with anxiety as I await some kind of reaction. Nothing happens. Then I swallow saliva, feeling it particularly bitter. Hi, how are you? Just saying that was incredibly hard. I expect them to turn to me at any moment and say something, even being seen as an invader. However, none of those things happen. The only thing there is silence. Hello? I said louder, finding the same result. Quickly, my fear dies, being replaced by frustration and anxiety. They really can't see me, right? I murmured with a low voice and annoyance. Then I think about touching one of them. I extend my hand to the closer kid, who calmly plays with the sand. My fingers get closer slowly, expecting to feel cold material. However, I stop before touching it. I'm not brave enough to do it. It's better for me to leave things as they are for now. I sigh again before looking around. I didn't realize before, but at the distance there's a golden and white castle in the highest part of the city. I see the park one last time, convincing myself that nothing good would come out of staying more time here. And then begin my travel to the castle at the distance. Moving results much easier than I expected. There's a road with yellow stairs that lead to the castle, impossible to miss them. The way is unspeakably long. However, no matter how much time passes or how many steps I go up, I never feel tired. I'm not thirsty nor sweat under the sun. I'm always relaxed and full of energy, at least physically. My mind, on the other hand, on the other side, is incompressible chaos. As I ascend, I watch the inhabitants of the place. The children sing or run without end, recognized only by their smaller size. Adults, meanwhile, work hanging cloths on the roof, cleaning the streets or in buildings from which smoke comes out. There are those typical things one would imagine from a town. However far from seeming normal, I see them as disturbing. They feel too artificial. There's no life in them. They don't do it with a purpose or because they like it. It's more like they are puppets forced that represent the everyday life of an imaginary town without a single touch of reality in it. In other words, everything is painfully fake. The children aren't having fun, the adults don't need to work or wear clothes. If the streets were dirty, no one would care. It's all simply a lie. Not only that, but there's another detail that makes it even more uncomfortable. The city they live in is almost ruined. Many of the buildings have fallen down, and those still standing are full with cracks. It seems the city has been a long time without proper maintenance, letting the buildings to age until they crumble in pieces. And they don't seem to care in the slightest. Not even that. There simply isn't a problem in their artificial minds. I gulp with my heart turning heavier than lead. I then shake my head to forget about it and set my sight to the front. I still have many steps to go up, hundreds of them more. I just try to look to the front without paying attention to them. At least what the masked doll said before seemed to be true. They can't see me. By the time I finally reached the castle, the sun was setting. In the entrance, there is a pair of guards with long spears. They are just for show. It is impossible any of the puppets would try to enter. They have no will of their own. And in my case, they simply can't see me, so it would be the same as if they weren't there. I doubt for a moment, looking at them deeply to confirm with supposition. I steel myself and manage to touch the mask of one of them. Nothing happens. It doesn't tremble or even acts confused. The guard remains still as a statue. Is something going to happen after the sun sets? I got a feeling something is. I sight and then decide to keep going forward. At the entrance, there's a red cart with golden edges. As I walk through the hallway, I see numerous paintings, sculptures, and vases along many times of furniture. What? Along many times of furniture? For sure, they must have been very beautiful. I'm talking in the past, because in present day they are ruined. Many of them are broken, worn down, and colorless. It is as if the whole city had countless years abandoned. It slowly turns to dust without anyone noticing. Something else that calls my attention is that there are no doors. With the exception of the entrance and the hallway, I don't see any clue of being other rooms in the castle. It has a huge size and the use only a small part of it. I shake my head not knowing what to think about it. Anyway, the king shouldn't be far. I continue walking till I find before another big door, along with a pair of useless guards that completely ignore me. This time I don't stop to watch them. I just ignore them back and keep moving forward as I remember what the masked doll said to me. The king is the only one who can see me and the only one who can help me. but that doesn't mean he will. There's a chance he will be disgusted by my presence. But that I can't know until I talk with him. Finally, I arrived to the throne room. A room very big with a second floor where dozens of puppets look down. I know they can't see me. They don't even move, so it would be more appropriate to say there isn't a life in them. They are just furniture. But knowing the dozens of masks with different expressions, all of them artificial, stare deeply at me, send shivers to my spine. I gulp while my heart beats anxious. This is not the time to doubt. I'm just a few steps away from my destiny. I cross the red curtain that hangs between me and the throne, not knowing what to expect. In my mind, the images of different kings come to mind. An old man with long white beard, with plenty of wisdom, a puppet just like the others, just with a gold crown, or even an empty room, the king being nothing but a symbol. What I didn't imagine, however, was what I found. Ah? Exclaimed a young, scared boy when he notices my presence. He's not a puppet, but a human, just like me. He wears a red cloak and a cardboard golden crown, as if it was just a toy. More than a king, he seems someone who plays to be one, but that feels fitting for this world of farces. Who are you? Who are you? How did you come to this place? I look at him for a couple of seconds before looking down. I don't know if I should kneel before a king or simply speak to him like any normal person. Yeah. Let's save. One of these is going to be right. One of these is going to be wrong. Let's see. Of course, he may have the title, the tittle of a king, but in reality, it's just a child. More than feeding the illusion of being a ruler, I should remember him that. My name is Gary. Honestly, I'm not very sure of how I came here. Even if it sounds ridiculous, I just woke up in this. I speak as naturally as possible, being friendly more than anything else. The kid stares at me in silence for what seems endless seconds, with a face that says he doesn't know what to think of me. He isn't angry or happy at my presence, at least not completely. It's more like he is curious about it. Did someone else come with you? He asked without even presenting himself before. Seems he still had to learn manners, but I can't blame him. He has lived alone for as long as his fantasy kingdom existed. Answer. He then added, impatient. I don't like the way he looks at me at all. My heart feels heavy noticing that something was wrong. No, I said, reluctant. Before talking to you, you should present yourself. After all, I already told you my name. The kid makes a disgusted face after hearing my question. Is this the right answer? It wasn't the fact I asked his name what made him angry, but me demanding something from him. Henry I, monarch of the Golden Sun. The kid presented himself, talking with so much pride it almost stinks. He then turns to see me with piercing eyes, awaiting for some kind of praise from me. Now it is clear to me that he isn't a normal kid. He was brainwashed with the title of king. Then I remember something important. The masked doll told me he could help me. Henry, how did you end up in this place? Henry tilts his head, staring at me with annoyance. He intentionally waits before speaking. With each second he makes me wait, my anxiety grows. Soon it becomes much heavier than what my shoulders are able to resist. I make an anguished face just before losing my temper. Do you want to stay trapped in this place? Just after saying that, my heart fills with regret. I look down knowing it was a bad idea. Darn, I made this. It sounds like I made the wrong choice. Henry looks back at me with a face full with the purest disgust, more than I could ever imagine in a person, adult or child. I instantly realize something is terribly bad. I created this place, and I am the king. And to answer your question, no, I want to stay here forever. The look in his eyes become dead cold at that moment. What I see is an absolute rejection. And he looks at me as his enemy. I have no doubts of it. The real ones are not welcomed. As the king, to maintain the peace of the kingdom, it is my job to eliminate you. Just after saying that, he claps a couple of times. The noise makes an echo inside my head. Then all suddenly I hear a mechanism move inside the castle. I can even imagine it, the gears moving something heavy. What I couldn't tell was what were they moving, and that exactly a trap just below my feet. I have no time to react or even think when the floor below me opens, making me fall. The only thing I can do is scream from the bottom of my heart. Desperate, scared as I fall to a dark pit which becomes darker and darker each second. I scream with no end, feeling every second in endless torture. My eyes are unable to see the bottom. Instead, they see how the darkness surrounds me, captures me, and engulfs me. I'm falling into the darkness. I literally do, not fall down a pit, but to a sea of darkness. It is an endless fall, or rather the cessation of falling forever. Trapped in a darkness that doesn't belong to any world, real or dream. However, no matter how much time passes, even if forever, I simply can't stop screaming. Wow, that was that was not the right decision. Kneel before him. This what we'll try. Before my eyes, he is just a kid. However, something isn't right here. The way he looks at me is not proper for a child. Somehow it seems the illusion of being a ruler went up his head. Instead of looking at me as an equal or with respect to someone older, he looks down on me as if I was a pest. No matter how much I hate it, I should play along with him, at least for now. So I kneel slowly, lowering my head with respect. My name is Gary. And well, actually, I'm not sure how I got here. It may sound ridiculous, but I simply woke up in this place. I speak as natural as I can, being respectful more than flattering. The kid stares at me in silence for what seems endless seconds, with a face that says he doesn't know what to think of me. He isn't angry or happy at my presence, at least not completely. It's more like he is curious about me. Did someone else come with you? Yes, without even presenting himself before. Seems he still has to learn manners. But I can't blame him. He has lived alone for as long as this fantasy kingdom existed. Answer, he then added, impatient. I don't like the way he looks at me at all. My heart becomes heavy, noticing something was wrong. I force myself to show respect, finding none in return. No, I am alone. I pause after saying that and then look up to his eyes. Could the king present himself before this visitor? I say it in such a way it seems to be an honor to learn his name, or at least that is my intention. I have no experience talking with a king. Henry I, monarch of the Golden Sun. The child presented himself, talking with so much pride it almost stinks. Then he turns to look at me with piercing eyes, waiting some sort of praise from me. Beautiful title, my lord, I said to avoid falling silent. Now it is clear to me that he isn't a normal child. He was brainwashed with the title of king. Then I remember excuse me. Then I remember something very important. The masked doll told me he could help me. King Henry, if you allow the question, do you know some way to leave this world? I don't wish to be a bother for too long. I feel disgusted at my own behavior, but it doesn't look like I have other options. I'm afraid he might order the puppets to attack me if I make him angry. Every second that passes is too long. After hearing him, I can't help it but think he needs a good spanking to correct his tone. But you are right, I do know the exit. There's a well where images of other worlds reflect. However, it is blocked. I ordered to be so that no Rios can enter the kingdom of the sun. After saying that, Henry stares at me full of disdain, sharp as a blade. I don't know how you came here, but it seems it wasn't from there. I blink confused, then I nod in silence. No, I just woke up in the middle of a park. I don't know how I entered, but it wasn't by the well, that I can assure you. Well, it hasn't been precisely the nicest conversation, but I got to admit it was useful. At least now I knew what I had to do to get out. Once again, I lower my head with respect. My king, I have a petition. If you could open to the well so I can go back where I belong. That way I wouldn't bother you anymore. From my point of view, it is a very tempting offer, but it seems Henry isn't convinced about it. He stares deeply at me while thinking, until he finally speaks. No, if I do that, more real ones could enter. That would be our end. The well must remain sealed even more. I order my guards to redouble the vigilance. The coldness and selfishness of his words leave me out of breath. My face become pale from the incredulity. It should have been easy, and yet he opted for that. As for you, Gary, you will be arrested until I find a safe way to expulse you from our world. I can't believe what he says. I'm cold, I sweat in fear, shocked by everything going on. And how easy he says it. Guards! A couple of puppets with swords answer his call. They appear behind me so fast it feels like they had been created out of thin air. Take him away. Henry points at me with his index finger. The puppets don't doubt in grabbing my arms and pulling me away from his presence. It's weird, seems that they can see me now. Or maybe they always could and simply decided to ignore me. But after being ordered, they couldn't ignore me anymore. In any case, I have no time to think about it. The surprise, anger, and frustration fill my mind, leaving no room for anything else. I don't even bother to struggle. They are armed and their grip is so hard it hurts. They drag me back all the hallway to the exit. Once outside the castle, they force me to walk to the town. I walk down the stairs for unknown seconds, cursing in my mind during each single of them. I'm not in my best mood, nor I should be. Until finally they open the door of a building that looks about to fall down. I have no other choice but to enter. Inside there's a big number of cells. Curiously, some of them have puppets inside of them, remaining perfectly still as if they were just furniture. Actually, that is exactly what they are, for this prison to serve its purpose, it needs prisoners, even if they are just symbolic. They could open the doors and not a single one of them would escape. And the puppets open an empty cell and then push me inside, closing it instantly with a big key. It's the typical cell used in fairy tales, with iron bars and a huge lock. They say nothing before abandoning me there. I don't say a word either. There's no reason to. They clearly can't hear me. The only thing I do is sigh just before kicking the door out of frustration. Then I rub my face trying to calm down. What can I do in this place? I feel completely useless. I'm under the impression that Henry will forget about me the moment I'm out of his sight. And escaping sounds like a very far away dream. The walls are solid and the bars thick. The key is very far away from my reach. Once again I sigh, feeling my life escape with my breath. I made a mistake. There's actually one thing I can do. I sit on a corner and close my eyes, feeling pity of myself. That is all. Is the only thing I have left. It is really pathetic, but I got nothing. There is nobody here, not a single soul in the prison. I have no one to talk to, or ways to get out, or anyone who would come to rescue me. Not even a single thing to do in this empty cell. There isn't even a place I to sit other than the floor. It tears my heart just thinking about it, that I'll be here forever. My real fear is being forgotten in this place. I sigh in silence, feeling sorry for myself. Then I look up for no other reason than to get comfortable. Suddenly I blink with curiosity. Huh? I exclaim confused when I see something inside a crack. With curiosity, I get closer to it. I stick my fingers inside the crack and pull out a folded paper. My heart beats excited, just because this could be the last surprise of my life. I unfold the paper, seeing there is something written on it. Without wasting a second, I start to read it. Radiant smile. Long time ago in a faraway kingdom, there was a kid who always smiled. Even when it rained or was cold, that didn't stop him. Everyone around him were envious, but more than anything felt disgust for such a happy kid. Being so happy should be a sin, they thought. That's why every day all the other kids and even the adults bothered him, repeating the same complaints and mocks, and even punishing him for no reason in hopes of ruining his good mood. But none of that bothered him. He was like the sun, shined with his own light, with a warmth that was born from inside him without the need of anyone else. A sun that the moon and all other stars envied for having much more light than all that together. They wanted to put out his light, darken him to make him like themselves. But in the end, all of his efforts were in vain. The more they pressed the kid, the more intensely his smile shined. So intensely, so warm and comforting, like no other star that could exist. After long years, the kid finally realized something. He didn't belong to that place where everyone lived on complaint and anger and anguish. No, he belonged to other place, one high on the sky, very far above them. Decided he one day, extended his hands to the sky, looking directly to the sun. Without saying a single word, the light and warmth that accompanied him became more and more intense. The white light made it impossible to see anything, and the heat melted and transformed the world around him, until he found himself in another world, one where everyone was his friend, one where everyone smiled like him, where everyone thought like him, and could live happy forever after. After reading the story, I sighed, closing my eyes. Then I opened them again with an empty look. I do it just by reflex. There is nothing more to see in this place. The walls are as boring as I imagined. And the only slightly interesting thing is to see the patterns, the cracked shape, but the interest quickly dies. I let the time pass meaninglessly, not even bothering to count the seconds. It makes no sense to do it. I just stare at the ground immobile, as if I was a toy without batteries. Suddenly I feel a huge desire to cry. I feel awful. It hasn't been even a day, and I already can't stand this. But I hold it, fearing that if I do, I'll lose the last sliver of my will. I close my eyes and sigh, trying to imagine something. After long seconds, nothing comes to my mind, at least nothing I haven't thought before. Same questions. Where am I? Who is Alice? What will happen to me? Repeat themselves so many times inside my head that I ran of answers for them. I used them all. I finally opened my eyes full of resignation. I feel ashamed of how poor is my imagination. Being like this, I think it will take me less than a week to lose my sanity. And one more week for me to become one of those immobile puppets, lifeless, playing a farce for all eternity. It makes no sense, but I can't help but think about it. I blink before tilting my head. I take a breath in silence with my mind blank. And it is then that I see it. My eyes suddenly fix on it, staring at it as if it was something wonderful. I look with surprise and thankful to a simple stone in the floor of the prison. Without doubting, I stand up and pick it up. I put it to my eyes level, looking at it from every angle. There's nothing special about it except for the place I found it. Without knowing why, at that moment a spark lights on my mind. My imagination suddenly awakes, an unstoppable river of inspiration. All just by looking at an insignificant stone. Acting by pure instinct. Excuse me. Acting by pure instinct, I get closer to one of the walls and then draw a line on it with the stone. Before a white line had appeared, that soon would be accompanied by many others. My hand moves as if nothing could stop it, drawing one thing I couldn't take away from my mind. As I draw, everything I said before is turned upside down. I no longer care about the time nor feel frustrated, even less I'm afraid of losing my mind. It is all the opposite. I'm now completely submerged in what I'm doing, never before feeling as lucid as now. My hand guides me doing every stroke as clean as possible, ignoring everything else. Till finally my work is done. It is the picture of a woman of great beauty that I can barely remember. The only thing missing is for me to give it a name. Only one name could be right. Alice. Oh, it is quite pretty. I almost jump surprised when out of nowhere I hear a familiar voice speak. What? I instantly turn to that direction, finding the masked doll who looks at me. Tilts her head and fakes to laugh in silence. You have talent. I couldn't draw something like that, no matter how hard I tried. I just don't have what it takes. Just nothing. To be honest, if I had better tools, I could have done a much better work. After saying that, I walk towards her until we are just a step apart, looking at her from behind the bars. What are you doing here? It's not like I'm thankful to see her, but without a doubt, it is weird. I really didn't imagine anyone would remember me. She covers the masked mouth and pretends to laugh. Is this Alice? Is this Alice? Covers the mask's mouth, and pretends to laugh. Suddenly a chill runs down my spine. I had forgotten how weird she was. What am I doing? I'm talking with you. She tilts her head and playfully waves her hands. This is secretly Alice. Now, if you mean the reason why I'm here, that's because I am very special. I make an annoyed face. What is that supposed to mean? The masked doll tilts her head again and covers her mouth with one hand, faking curiosity. What is it supposed to mean to be special? I narrow my eyes, disgusted by that answer. However, then I start to think about it. That you're different, I guess. Usually special is how you call something unique. To be honest, I had never bothered to think about what it means. It is a word we use so often without truly understanding it. She then moves her index finger side to side in denial. Incomplete. Special is more than just different. It also has to be something positive, something good. Being unique does not mean you are the best. But being called special is the same as saying you are uniquely good at something. In other words, there's something valuable that only you can do. Being like that. Isn't it pretty to be special? Okay. I said tired before sighing. She really talks a lot. She's really weird, but the more I hear from her, I can't stop thinking that what makes her special is that she actually has a soul. She's really unique between the puppets. And with all of this, what do you want to tell me? Eh? She exclaimed, confused before scratching her head. Nothing. Actually, it doesn't have any purpose, but I thought it was fun. I sigh again, annoyed. My mind instantly goes blank. I guess I should have expected something like that. What is strange is that she later smiled. It is stupid. I'm sure most people wouldn't be patient enough for a conversation like that. But there's something that makes it strangely fun, I believe, for the simple fact of being so weird. Well, now that I've heard you, can I ask you a favor? I said with a clear objective in my mind. She claps full of enthusiasm. Of course, it's only fair, or I think so. Could you get me out of here? She tilts her head and thinks about it in silence. Suddenly I feel someone stab my heart with an ice knife. I can anticipate something bad. Ice knife? Let you out? My. I guess maybe that is in my power. But don't you think it would be better for you to get out by yourself? My face goes pale when I hear her say that. My heart turns to stone from the anxiety. I look down and sigh, trying to keep calm. I would love to, but I can't do it. A simple human can't break the bars or reach the key. I am trapped. I said, feeling hopeless. She then shakes her head and shrugs indifferent. Why can't you do it? Have you thought about it? Once again, she answers with a question. I must say I'm not in the mood to reflect about life. I only want to escape, not just form this cell, but from this world. Because I'm not strong enough. And the key is too far to pick it up. After saying that, I close my eyes and sigh again. For a second, my inside feels empty and cold, as if I had become hollowed all suddenly. Takes a finger to the masked lips, doing a pensive gesture. However, soon later pretends to laugh. And that is the problem. You are a real one. Those steel bars shouldn't mean anything to you. Ah? Hearing her answer instantly moves something inside of me. Suddenly, the hopelessness in my shoulders crumbles like sand. What do you mean? I blink confused while staring at her. The masked doll claps a couple of times. Then grabs the bars, making the gesture of trying to bend. She then grabs the bars, making the gesture of trying to bend then with all of her might. Of course, it was just an act. The real and the unreal are very different things. For anyone from this world, this bars would be a barrier impossible to pass. But you also are very special. I mean, I don't remember a single time something imaginary managed to stop something real. Not because you not because you desired strongly. Wow, this is a line. Not because you desired strongly, you can stop gravity. Not because it is fair things will come out as you desire. She then tilts her head and crosses her arms in a gesture I can't understand. Or rather hugs herself in a gesture full of affection. Isn't it beautiful to be very special? We two are very special. I open my eyes wide in surprise. My lips move wanting to speak, but I have no words. She basically revealed that I could escape at any moment. And it is only because I never tried that I was still trapped. There's something more. She is without a doubt different. It's impossible she is one of the puppets. She can't be. The puppets are toys. They have no mind nor soul. They just pretend to have a life imitating what a person would do in their position. The keys play. The keys play. I'm pretty sure they meant kids. The keys play. The adults work and the guards keep watch. They do it so artificially that in plain sight, one can notice they don't care about it at all. They aren't anything more than a winded up toy. However, this masked doll is nothing like them. She acts with free will, shows curiosity, interest, and knowledge. What are you thinking? Did thinking about it paralyze you from the shame? She pretends to laugh, covering her lips. Doesn't emit a single sound. It's just the gesture. The kind still can help you escape. He just needs you to convince him to do it. The king. He means the king. Typos, grammatical errors. This game is filled with them, but it's kind of annoying and funny at the same time. After saying that, I see she turns around, preparing to leave suddenly without even saying a word. Wait, I said before I realized while staring at her. She doesn't turn around, but does not stop, curious to hear what I had to say. Okay, I'm gonna take a quick break. I can get up and stretch my legs. So I will be back in a few minutes. Infinite Kitty just tipped $10. Wow. Thank you for the $10, Infinite Kitty 8. Thank you very much. Very generous. Okay. Oh. Hope everyone is doing good today. So let's see. Which question is not going to get a game over? Who are you? Or you don't belong to this world? I just saved, so if I pick the wrong answer, I can just load back up from here. Who are you? Who are you? I stay silent while looking deeply at her. She doesn't react. Actually, her reaction is simply staying silent. Unlike her usual playful and joking attitude, she is seriously doubting. That means I have asked something important. The masked doll slowly moves her right hand, putting it on her face. I see in silence how she takes off her mask and drops it, letting it hit the ground. Is it going to be who I think it is? That sound makes an echo in my mind. I already told you I'm someone very special. Was the only thing she said before suddenly her body falls apart. I mean it literally. It was like seeing a toy being disarmed piece by piece. I blinked confused while looking at the spot she was standing before. Seeing what just happened leaves my breathless. I don't know what to think. I remain still for long seconds until I convince myself it is time to move forward. I do just as she suggested. I simply use all of my strength to bend the bars. Instantly, I feel how they bend so easily that it's laughable. It's like if I had been trapped inside a painted cardboard box. Ooh, we picked the right answer. The right choice. In just a few seconds, I had escaped from the cell that before I feared would keep me trapped forever. Once I'm free, the first thing I do is take a deep breath. I close my eyes and fill my lungs with air, feeling how my energy comes back. Then I fix my sight at the exit door of the prison. Just a few more steps and I would be back in the city. I cross the door, then feel a chill run to my spine. It's so cold, it shakes even my soul. All of my body goes pale and cold, as if my heart had stopped beating. Before me, I see the corpses of two puppets. I guess those were the guards. Their masks are broken in pieces, as if something had savagely beaten them. Same for the rest of their bodies. Near their bodies I see gears, springs, and other clockwork pieces, confirming my supposition that they were artificial beings. For a moment, I think it might be the work of the masked doll, but it makes no sense. At least I don't think it was her. I also don't think it was the work of the king, but then who? Seems that I had been trapped for so long that it was already night. But that is not all. The town has transformed into something else. It was always strange, but that word alone is not enough to describe it now. Now it was terrifying. Now it was terrifying. A huge red one shines above the town. Crows sit on the rooftops of the buildings that somehow got twisted by the influence of the moon, looking unnatural. The wind blows, feeling unusually cold. Then I hear the sound of footsteps. Something is lurking nearby. And if that wasn't scary enough, suddenly I hear a loud hit. It was like hearing a traffic accident, an inhuman force. My very soul shakes frightened at that. It was close. My heart turns to stone just from thinking of it. A chill runs down my spine, leaving me pale. What could that have been? Whatever it was, I just hope it ignores me, just like the puppet. My common sense tells me that it is better to hide, but at the same time, I feel an enormous curiosity. I take a deep breath. I guess it would sound foolish, but actually I want to see what happens. Something there is calling me. I walk carefully without knowing what I would find, until I finally arrive to the place where the sound came. My heart jumps at that moment. Before me there were two puppets, the same I had seen during the day. However, what is very different is their behavior. Instead of pretending to be the happy villagers of a fantasy town, they are fighting. No, I was wrong. One of them is beating the other who doesn't make the slightest effort to defend itself. It looks like it wants to continue with the farce of its job while being brutally destroyed. The aggressor then hits him again, making a furious bang, as if it was a cannon shooting. The victim's mask breaks in pieces, revealing nothing more than gears and springs. It instantly stops moving. It is dead. However, that doesn't stop the aggressor, then sooner or later it hits 3 more times. Each attack as loud as the last one. I tremble at the same time I cover my ears as a reflex. Before my eyes, the puppet is reduced to twisted metal pieces. Not much is left of it, at least less than needed to be recognized. I stare at the pieces on the ground without words. I'm astonished. Pale from the incredulity, with my heart heavy as lead. It isn't seeing the death of the puppet what shocked me, but the brutality of the other. It seems loaded with the purest malice, mad with hatred. And then the aggressor turns to my direction. The smiling mask has many scratches, surely from the pieces of metal that went flying. But that only makes it more disturbing. That images turns me into stone. I can't even breathe. I see it stare at me in silence for endless seconds, as if it didn't know what to do with me, until it finally starts walking. Slowly the puppet gets closer to me, without anything I could do to stop it. My legs don't react. I don't even have breath. The only thing I can do is close my eyes, knowing it would be my end. At least I find comfort that with such power, I would die instantly with the first hit. I hear its steeps get closer, more and more. Until finally, strangely, they seem to start getting away. Every time the sound grows weaker until I can't hear it anymore. Even then, I wait a moment before opening my eyes. I instantly look around, finding only empty air. Then I let out a long sigh. Never before I remember feeling so relieved. Seems I am still invisible. I murmur to the cold air. I think I have never felt happier in my life for being ignored. I wait a few seconds to relax, then close my eyes and take a deep breath. When I open them again, I set my sight in the yellow stairs. I look up slowly, following the stairs until seeing the castle at the distance. That was my destination. Without more delay, I start to carefully walk up the stairs. It wasn't necessary. I knew I was safe. But even then, the idea of finding myself with another berserk puppet made me nervous. Many minutes passed in silence, without any news. I just continued going up while occasionally finding a piece of twisted metal on my way. Then I suddenly stop. I hear a bang at the distance, like a cannon shooting. I tremble because of how sudden it was. But just like it appeared soon, the calm returns. I wait a couple of seconds confused until finally I decide it's better to continue. Since then, the sound of the bangs become more frequent. They meant frequent, but never too often. But I get used to suddenly hearing them without trembling. With that, one of my questions is answered. I thought it might have been just a puppet that went berserk, but it seems there are more. In the way I find dozens of broken masks and pieces of clockwork. It was like walking along a graveyard, or rather a battlefield. It makes me anxious just to imagine it. But I can't let that scare me. After unknown seconds, I stop a moment to rest. I'm about little more than halfway. And I set my sight on the buildings. They're strangely warped, as if they had been stretched, tilted, and curved to the sides. I can't tell what it means. Just that it is weird and gives me goosebumps. Now my only doubt left was if all the nights were like this, or this night was special. I resumed my travel to the castle this time, ignoring everything else on my way. I only stopped, but I feel I saw a shadow lurking nearby. I don't manage to see what it was, but I'm sure it was a puppet. Sooner or later, I hear a loud bang not far from here. When I reach the castle, I realize the guards are broken to pieces. I look at them with curiosity before getting inside. The hallway is just like before, except the torches are lit. At the end, I arrive to the throne room, where numberless puppets await for me, looking down from the second floor. I look at them for a second. Seems they were having a party, drinking and laughing without moving a single finger. My heart's turned to stone. My heart turns to stone when I hear what sound like a whisper. It must be only my nerves. Truth is, I'm not sure. But seem they are laughing of me from up there. I shake my head, trying not to think about that. I still have to convince Henry to help me out of here. It sounds almost impossible, but I can't give up on it yet. Even with his terrible attitude, I don't want to think a child can be bad. Once I get closer to the throne, I'm ready to push aside the red curtain. The only thing between me and Henry. However, I suddenly stop. My fingers freeze in the air just a centimeter before touching the curtain. What is it? From the other side, I hear what seems to be sobs. That makes me more than perplexed. It seems impossible, but it is no mistake. Someone is crying. I'm so lonely. I hear a kid cry without rest, saying small phrases full of self-pity occasionally. I have no doubts that is Henry, but it seems too weird, too much. It is a complete turn to the opposite direction from the first time I saw him. Nobody loves me. For a moment, I even doubt if I should bother him, but I can't simply go away and come back later. I don't know if something dangerous might happen later. I'm sorry for him, but he will have to bear with it. I take a deep breath before finally crossing the curtain, appearing suddenly right in front of him. What I see, talking in a few words, breaks my heart. He rubs his eyes while crying, not like a king, but like what he really is, a kid. Ah, what are you doing here? How did you escape? When he notices my presence, Henry suddenly trembles. He quickly cleans his face with one hand and then pretends to be in a bad mood, like if nothing had happened before. I just managed to do it. I speak relaxed, ignoring that I had seen him cry, at least for now. I can't shake that idea from my mind, but the first thing I want is for him to know that I'm not going to make fun of him, even less hurt him. I'm not his enemy. To be honest, even after what happened, I don't hate it. He's just a kid with too much power on his hands. And after living in this place, even as the king, for what I believe was a long time, I can't blame him for not understanding others. The puppets are just toys. Talking with them would be the same as talking to the wall. Thinking about it again, it isn't hard to know why he feels so lonely. You have to go back to prison, he said with shaky voice, showing he was still hurt by whatever that made him cry. If you don't go back, the kingdom of the sun might be lost. Um... Hmm. 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 What? What? What choice? What? This? I won't go back. Let's try this one. No, not even if I was crazy. I said seriously with a clear bad mood. Then I shake my head in denial before setting my sight on him. This time I don't worry to treat him like a king. He's a kid and I should treat him like that. Henry looks angry at my answer, but also frustrated. He knows he can't force back by himself. However, even when he is clearly angry, He says nothing. I keep looking at him deeply, with a firm expression on my face for long seconds. I let him know I won't do everything he wants. Time passes almost crawling until finally my lips move to make other question. Why were you crying? He trembles after listening my words and pretends to be angry. I wasn't crying, he said before cleaning his face. All right. If don't want to go, it'll have to be by force. Guards? I remember the first time I heard that order, my whole body trembled. However, this time it produces nothing in me. I don't even blink while looking at him. Time passes with no response, unlike the first time, which was instantaneous. Henry, your guards won't come. My voice sounds unusually cold. After saying that, I remember seeing they destroyed in the entrance. Ah, he exclaims confused before looking at me angry. What did you do to them? Nothing. I simply said, no, not even knowing if I should add anything else. Excuse me. Seems he doesn't know what is happening out there. And if that's the case, it would be better for him to see it with his own eyes. It is something very hard to explain with words, and I fear that if I try it, I will only make him angrier. Nothing? You are lying. I stared at him in silence, letting the time pass slowly. I don't know how to treat children. I just act naturally. And in this case, my answer is to be serious. Why were you crying? I asked again, changing the subject. Are you unhappy in this place? What? Henry exclaims at the same time he makes a bitter face. No, of course not. The kingdom of the sun is the best place that could exist. Somehow, I can't believe that. Is it the best place because there is no one here? I see him tremble at that question. For a split second, his eyes show weakness, before going back to anger. That was how he really felt. No, you were wrong. People only ruin things. Here everything is perfect, because nobody complains or yells at you. Everyone is always smiling. It's much better than the real world. The devotions he uses to say that seems pitiable. I look down for a moment feeling sorry for him, because clearly he can't admit that he is unhappy. Well, save again. Hmm. Just a little thirsty. should I? Which would? Um, excuse me. Um, I just saved, so. Henry, you still have a lot to grow up. Can't simply abandon because you don't like the rules or the result. Or else you will always be alone. After saying that, Henry groans with annoyance. The face he has clearly says he doesn't want to listen to what I say. I look at him for a couple of seconds in silence. Henry, you can't simply ignore reality. Even if you hate it, it will catch up with you. There's no answer. He doesn't even turn to look at me. In the end, I got nothing else to do than sighing with resignation. I could say a lot more things, but it would be meaningless for a stubborn kid. The best I could do, I show him what is happening outside and let him see it with his own eyes. Henry, do you want to see what happened with your guards? That way you will see I was being honest before when I said I did nothing to them. I had just said that when I see how he reacts, turning at me with great curiosity. He says nothing, but it's clear he wants to know. Come on, it won't take long. You can trust me. He finally nods. Okay, but you better not be lying. It is an empty threat. I ignore it and then turn back, pushing the curtain away to cross it. Then suddenly I feel something is wrong. It was strange, some sort of intuition I don't remember having before. I look up. Well, the puppets are having a party only to find the place is empty. There's not a single one of them there. They just disappeared without a reason and without making a sound. I blink confused, unable to think what it could mean. What are you looking at? At that moment, I shake my head. Nothing. I said at the same time I turned to Henry, seeing the confused and impatient look on his face. Then I returned my side to the front. Without delay, I start to walk to the castle's entrance. However, it is hard not to ask myself in my mind what happened with them. The way back is just like always. We walk all the way in silence until we're close enough to see the entrance at the distance, along with the destroyed bodies of the guards lying on the cold ground. Ah! Henry exclaimed before running to them. What happened to them? Who did this? He looks at the bodies confused, then picks up one of the gear, seeing it fall apart between his fingers. They are completely ruined. After saying that, he turns to me with a sad look on his eyes, like a child whose toys had just been stolen. At least doesn't seem he believes I did it. There was another of them. The inhabitants of the kingdom are fighting. After saying that, I pause. Henry stays quiet with a sigh down, looking at the pieces. I guess it must be really hard for him to believe it. Let's go to the city. There you will be able to see it with your own eyes. There is no answer. Harry remains still with his sight fixed on the same spot. He seems to be deeply thinking about something. There's no need. I believe you. I was about to say something when suddenly Henry speaks. He then looks up and turns to me. His eyes reflect a profound sadness, but also resignation, as if he had finally accepted he couldn't keep lying to himself. During the nights, the kingdom of the sun goes insane. And in the next morning, they quickly repair everything and pretend nothing had happened. I always knew about it. After saying that, Henry shakes its head. No, it's more like I had dreams where that happened many times. But after waking up and seeing everything was like usual, I just forget about it. But I always had the fear it was more than a simple dream, and now I can finally confirm it. The sadness on each of his words feels heavy on my heart. Without thinking twice, I pet his head to comfort him. Henry looks down and sighs. When he returns his sight to my eyes, I can see a sliver of kindness on his. Come with me, I'll lead you to the exit. My very core trembles surprised when I hear him say that. Really? I said, unable to believe it. Henry nods. Yes, I believe you deserve to go back. His voice sounds much friendlier. He had cast aside his role as king. Thank you very much. I said, really thankful. After saying that, I see him take a deep breath. Then he starts walking back to the town. This way. The well I told you about is hidden in the town's church. Okay, I follow you. My heart beats excited knowing that I would finally get out of this world. Now I only have one doubt left, but I prefer to ignore it for now. In silence we go down the stairs back to the city. I can't say it is any less scary than before. The warped buildings with impossible architecture, pieces of clockwork, and broken masks on the ground. The cawing of the crows and the sound of the lurking puppets, along with the occasional bangs. Henry trembles with each one of them, as a kid afraid of thunders would. He even moves closer to me, as if wanting to hug me. But he holds out, pretends to be brave. Is it like this every night? I suddenly ask the question just to make a conversation. If we go quiet for too long, it will feel like we are alone, like divided by a great distance. Henry never turns to look at me. His sight is always to the front. I never go to the castle, so I couldn't be sure. But many times I dreamt that the city goes mad at nights, just to be reconstructed later when the sun comes down. I always thought those were just that, dreams, nightmares, but it seems it is not like that. Henry gulps and takes a deep breath, cleaning his face later with one hand. He seems anguished to know the truth. I set my sight to the front and changed the subject. Henry, what did you do during the day? What do you mean? I mean, who did you have fun during the day, or what kind of work you did? Now that I think about it, it is a very good question. I can't imagine what he had to do as the king of a puppet. But if he did nothing more than sitting in the throne, that would be incredibly boring. I had to do nothing. Being the king of an idea kingdom, I had no job or to give any order. So I used all day to have fun. Doing what? Henry stops when I make the question. Then he turns to me, looking at me with curiosity. Well, I ate sweets the whole day. Also, I had plenty of toys and many books to read. Some video games even. But they were all very repetitive. I got bored of them pretty quickly. I scratched my head while thinking on what he said. I see him tilt his head with curiosity while looking at me in silence, trying to guess what was in my mind. Somehow I feel what he said about the video games was because he had knowledge about no more than a few of them. This world is a projection of his ideal world, that must not be able to have things beyond his knowledge. Where I come from, there's an infinity of video games, each very different, or at least most of them. Sadly, people tend to copy the most popular ones. Really? I see him asking, incredulous. Yes, I'm sure you will be able to find many to your liking. I respond a bit excited. Henry blinks, looking down for a brief moment. I guess that would be fun, is all he says. Then we resume walking down the stairs. I see the broken pieces of metal in our way without saying a word about them. It is better to ignore the night and keep on moving. Thankfully, we are invisible to them. Otherwise, I feel we wouldn't have gotten this far. I doubt I would have been able to get to the castle in one piece. We continue moving for unknown minutes, until finally I look up, seeing the church at the distance. I don't say a single word, just continue walking, seeing it get closer with each step. When we arrive, I see a big wooden door. Looks very solid, much more than the bars of the prison. My lips move. I was about to ask how we were going to open it. But before that, the answer appears before my eyes. Henry places his hand on the door and softly pushes it. The door responds, opening itself smoothly. It obeys the orders from its kings without second thought. I blink confused after seeing it. Definitely having the king at your side was something very useful. At least I won't have to worry about closed doors. What are you doing? Come on, then said Henry after noticing I was absent-minded. I instantly shake my head and smile, embarrassed. He looks at me for a second before turning his sight to the front, starting to walk. I follow him silently. The interior of the church is, to say in a few words, dark and incredibly frightening. The only light comes from the candles that adorn the place. I can see numerous religious icons that go from paints to sculpture. What is interesting is that I can't recognize any of them. They don't look like any religion I know, so I guess they are invented. But without a doubt, what was the most frightening were the puppets sitting near them, praying in silence. They appeared to have been like that for many countless years. Some of them were attacked. There's one who is missing half of its face, other without a shoulder and the head. And the worst of all was just a pair of kneeling legs. It would be the perfect scenery for a horror movie, one I would prefer to never watch. Aren't you afraid? I suddenly asked Henry. He seems perfectly relaxed, somehow something that surprises me for a kid of his age. Even as an adult would be afraid in this place. He instantly turns and looks at me with curiosity, tilts his head and blinks confused. No, why should I be afraid? I can't say I expected that response. I just shyly smile as if I had said a bad joke. No, it's nothing. I just got a bit scared. He looks at me for a couple of seconds before setting his eyes to the front. Being the king, I guess he isn't afraid anything would hurt him. For him, this place is just dark, but not dangerous. To me, instead, the mystery of what could be hiding in every corner puts my instincts in red alert. Come on, we're almost there, Henry said before opening a door that leads to the back of the church. Then he turns around and invites me to follow him with his eyes. Together we walk through a hallway lightened up by candles, till we reach a spiral staircase that goes down more than my eyes could see. Excuse me again. I just hope the well he was talking about isn't as far as the Earth's core. Henry, who do you worship in this church? I guess it's not the best question I could ask, but saying I wasn't dead curious would be a lie. He stopped for an instant and takes a deep breath. A couple of people without importance. His reaction is quite peculiar. Call it one way. It is clear there is something he is hiding to me, since he looks suddenly sad. I think it's best not to push with the subject. But there is another thing I'm curious about. That well you talk about has always been here? Henry shakes his head in denial, then looks into my eyes with curiosity. No. It suddenly appeared one day, just like you did. At first I didn't know what it did. But after seeing the reflex of the water many times, I realized it was the door back to the real world. That's why I ordered to have it sealed. I didn't want anything from that place to enter into the kingdom of the sun. I looked down pensive. Plenty of ideas cross my mind, but my lips don't say a single one of them. I understand. Was my weak answer before resuming my way. After many long seconds, it appears we had entered an underground cave. Come, just a little longer, Henry said, walking faster. Without a doubt, I follow after him. It is behind this door. He then added, at the same time he pushes with both hands a huge double door made of iron, as if it was the door of a fortress. The doors grind as they move, revealing the purest darkness behind them. I can't see even a centimeter beyond them. However, that doesn't seem to bother Henry. Come on. It'll get illuminated once we step inside. I nod and then follow him crossing the doors. My heart beats with anxiety, feeling something bad was about to happen, but that has to be a mistake. And then, just like you said, the lights turn on suddenly. There are gas lamps hanging all over the roof of the cave. They lit on magically, revealing a well at the end of the cave. A simple well like any kid would imagine. However, that's not the only thing the light reveal. Yep, I had a feeling. What is the king doing? Is he trying to escape? Outrageous! Unforgivable! There is no worse crime. I feel a chill run down my spine, taking my very core when I see a big number of puppets inside the cave. But that alone is nothing. It was hearing them speak what made me feel as if someone stabbed my back with dozens of ice needles. Later, to make it worse, the metal door closes behind our backs, making a loud noise that gives me goosebumps. I look back only to realize we were trapped before looking back at the puppets. I instantly recognized them. Those are the noble puppets that were having a party in the second floor of the castle. Somehow they foresee that we would come here and set us a trap. No, you are wrong. I was only helping Gary to go back to his world. And why does the king help him? Why is the king helping a real one? When the king himself is who hates them the most. The king is wrong. The king shouldn't help him. If he does, then he isn't apt to rule anymore. Henry looks very disturbed. The puppets attack him with their words. And what is worse, they are putting him against me. I turn to face him with curiosity, feeling my heart as heavy as lead. He is trembling, looks so vulnerable. I just wanted to help him. After saying that, Henry looks down. He seems about to cry. Why do you want to help him? Don't you realize he wants to take you back to the real world? That place you hate? The place that hates you? There everyone rejects you. There everyone think badly of you. There everyone disappoints you. There everyone is a bother. There you are unhappy. Different puppets speak, but all of them connected as if they have a single mind. Henry covers his face and sobs. He looks like heartbroken. Seeing like that him tears my soul. But I don't know what to say. I don't know what I can do. Looks like many things had happened to him before arriving to this place. That young man is the source of your problems. If he disappears, the king will go back to normal. If he disappears, the king will have no more doubts. He must disappear. At that moment, I feel my heart jump. My eyes open wide with incredulity, noticing how one of the puppets takes out a crossbow and points it right at my heart. Henry? I call his name with shaky voice, scared, but there is no answer. He looks terribly confused, as if the whole world had turned upside down for him. He must disappear. To protect the kingdom of the sun. To protect our king. To protect our happiness. He must disappear. No. At that moment, the puppet shoots the crossbow. The shining tip of the bolt flies straight to my heart. I'll die. If I don't do something, I'm sure I'll die. Dodge or don't dodge? You know what? It means it might sound crazy, but don't dodge it. My instincts scream for me to move away, but my body doesn't react. I stay paralyzed and just watching the arrow get closer to me at incredible speed. And then for an instant, everything turns red, followed by an unbearable pain that shakes my very core. Ah! I exclaimed in agony, feeling the arrow buried in my chest. I can see it, the tip buried into my chest fully. It is a sure death. It is impossible someone could survive to something like that. And yet I seem to care so little. Wait. The unbearable pain goes away as soon as it appeared, leaving only a calmness as if nothing had happened. The wound not even bleeds, as if my body could simply ignore it and pretend it was nothing. Or maybe I should say my mind is the one which ignores it. I take a hand to the arrow and touch it. It was almost like touching air. For a second my eyes see it as transparent, as if its presence was so thin it could disappear at any moment. Yes, without a doubt, that was the answer. Everything in this world is a product of the imagination of a kid. They aren't real as I am. Just like the bars of the prison, they can't stop me. Without a doubt, I'd take off the arrow from my chest. It was so easy, it doesn't even hurt when I do so. Then I look at it where it was finding there isn't even a wound there. It is only logical, the arrow doesn't exist. It can't reach me if I just ignore it. It isn't real. At that moment I forget about it and drop it to the ground. When it touches the earth, it crumbles, turning to smoke. Then I set my eyes on Henry, who looks at me surprised. His eyes shine with an incredulity I would have never expected from him. Without thinking, I smile. I think now I know how you feel. I know what it is to think the world is trash, and the older you get, the more you think that. But not everything is bad. There are also good things that are worth it. What are you talking about? The real world is garbage. Yes, you are right, but it is more than just that. It is also the only place where you will meet a real friend, where you will have your best experiences. I understand that there's a lot to hate. Too much, actually. Things hardly go the way we want, but I denying it won't do you any good. After saying that, I put one hand on his head. I don't like it. I have felt like that before, but now I feel nothing more than sorry for the kid trapped in this fake world. Henry, if you stay in this place, you will always have your hands empty. You will live a lie eternally. You will never know what it is to have a real friend, or to meet another person who loves you for who you really are. You will never learn what wonderful things others can do. I look at him for a couple of seconds, at his teary eyes, knowing I was right, before looking away and facing the nobles. Where they should be standing, I only see disarmed pieces of clockwork. Then I hear Henry say something with shaky voice. I instantly turn to him. I do want to know what it is to have a friend to talk with, even if his voice is different from mine. I'm tired of being so bored and so lonely. I can only nod to that. Seems I had awakened something inside of him. In that case, come with me, I say with a smile. At the same time, I offer my hand. He accepts it and smiles back. Yes, let's go. In silence, we hold hands. Then walk to the well at the end of the cave that all this time had been waiting for someone to jump in. I can't see the bottom, however, I think I can hear the sound of the ocean coming from it. I don't bother to ask how. Are you ready? I asked, feeling my own heart tremble. Saying that I was comfortable with the idea would be a lie. But I had come too far to doubt. This is the moment. Harry nods, telling me with a gesture that he is ready. And I return my sight to the well. I take a deep breath and then hold my breath for a moment, preparing to jump. Scared, I put one foot in front of the other, and then suddenly I find myself falling. In just an instant, everything becomes dark. I fall deeper and deeper, losing sense of everything around me. Until finally I realize that I can't tell if I'm still falling or not. The four of them fell into a deep dream, each one entering their own world. Because of the darkness in their hearts, their worlds were also dark. But even then they managed to find a little of peace. It was a new opportunity for them to know each other and know what they were missing. While they were dreaming, the girl visited them frequently to make sure they were all right. Talked to them about how a prince would come to their rescue because she couldn't do it herself. She says so many good things, there is no doubt she is dreaming. He is brave, kind, smart, and above everything, someone who will never leave a friend behind. She always says those words with a gentle smile, believing thoroughly in every one of them. The passage of time is imperceptible to them. Each day is just like the other, with nothing changing, except for the girl who grows a little more. She drifts away from her original shape and grows into a dreamlike one, so that when they meet each other, they have the same age. You couldn't stay a child forever. Time keeps passing, and there's no sign of the prince. The kids soon forget about it, learning to accept the world born from their interior. But she never forgot. She is still waiting for the person who promised seeing her again. She knows it is unfair. She knows she shouldn't do it. She knows it's not his fault to forget it. But besides all that, she waits. Waits for the person that will finally make her open her heart. For the person who convinced her he would always be at her side, with whom she didn't fear the happiness would end or the loneliness come back. She waits for him, patiently waits until finally she can't anymore. Anyone would say you are a normal person, but to me there isn't anyone more special. Suddenly I open my eyes. I rub my eyes and then blink. I've lost count of how many times I have woke up in the same way in a different place. Now I am in a room with a desk and many file cabinets. It looks like an office. I was sleeping on the desk with my hands and head resting on it. I find it funny to think that it was like I had fallen asleep at work, but soon I get serious. What is this place? I asked with curiosity. Then I get up the chair, or at least that was my intention before noticing there were some papers laying on the desk. Confused, I set my eyes on them. They seem to be the profile of the kids in the orphanage. However, most of the words are crossed and can't be read. I don't doubt that was the work of Alice. Profile 1. XXX suffers of social anxiety. She is afraid of interacting with children and even more with adults. She is afraid people are always judging her, and the only thing that makes her comfortable is the plushie she carries. Thankfully, in her time in the orphanage, she has shown signs of improvement. If it continues this way in 6 months, she will be available for adoption. Currently, there's a couple interested. Excuse me. Profile 2 suffers of chronophobia, fear of time. Chronophobia is not a very known word. Chronophobia, does that mean a fear of Chrono Trigger? Not a very known word, but it means fear or anxiety to the passage of time. Curiously, it is more common in elderly adults, but it can also appear in children when they fear for a particular date to come, just like how adults are afraid of death. Sadly, the patient shows no signs of improvement, but rather his symptoms seem to get worse. If this continues, I suggest a low dose of Centralina daily for anxiety. 50 millimeters? Or, Currently, there was no one looking to adopt him. If that doesn't change in the next year, the Hearts Orphanage will adopt him. Profile 3 suffers schizophrenia. Thankfully, it was detected in time and he is currently under treatment. Most of the symptoms have disappeared. It is recommended to keep him under vigilance in the orphanage for long until he has shown a full recovery. Until then, there will be no discussing about its possible adoption. Profile 4. Post-traumatic stress symptoms include amnesia. I swallow after reading it. Suddenly my hands tremble, then the papers slip from my fingers, falling back to the desk. I instantly put a hand to my forehead. I am sweating. My heart is heavy and hard like stone. That last profile, who could that be? Just thinking about it shook me to the very core like an earthquake. I closed my eyes and slowly breathed, trying to relax. It is better not to think about it. Now remember, I don't even know if those are real. Alice could easily be toying with my mind. After thinking about that, I opened my eyes with some relief in them. I sigh, letting my anguish go with full breath. And I know something more. Wait, excuse me real quick, I just got used to quick restroom break. Okie dokie. With curiosity, I pick up a page written at hand with very shaky letters. It seems whoever wrote it was very nervous. I don't want to lose it. You can't take it from me. It belongs to 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 me. The last phrase is repeated countless times all over the page. I swallow after reading it. It is truly frightening. In silence, I leave the page where I found it. I prefer to forget about it. Wasting no more time, I stand up. Before heading to the door, I check the file cabinets with curiosity. Half of them is locked, and those which aren't are empty. In the end, is a waste of time. Without the delay, I unlock the door and open it. It is then that I realize something. There's a name in the other side of the door. Director Richard Hartz. I read quietly. It seems I was in the office of the director of the orphanage. That would explain why those papers were on his desk. The first name is crossed and can't be read. I look at it in silence for long seconds, until finally I decide it's better to move on. With this, it seems I had finally explored all the rooms of the orphanage, with the exception of the basement, but personally I would prefer to avoid going down there. Now there is only one of the strange doors left to open. I hurry my steps, and I'm impatient to open the fourth door. I can't be sure, but my heart beats excited, thinking it is the way back. Once in front of the door, I realize that all the lock pads are broken. They lay quietly on the floor, without any hope of ever being repaired. So much better for me. And I set my eyes on the door that awaits silently to be opened. I blink doubting for a second, then slowly I extend my hand towards it. My heart jumps with each millimeter I get closer, feeling my very core shake as I turn to doorknob. Then I push the door open and oh. Well, really, that would give me the choice whether to go in the door or not. What I see on the other side leave me at a loss for words. My eyes shine, reflecting a pure white light. All of my body trembles with a chill that runs down my spine. Then it warms up so much it gets incinerated. I was wrong. It wasn't the way back. It is something very different, something I have forgotten. What I see on the other side is... Okay. The Wonderland of the Fake Alice. Once upon a time, there was a princess who lived in a castle. The castle was big and beautiful, with elegant and big gardens that made labyrinths, with secret passages and hidden rooms, even with traps to protect itself from anyone who might try to invade it. But there was something the castle didn't have, and that was inhabitants, with the exception of the princess. She never met her parents or any servant. Since she can remember, all of her life had passed in there, and the only human face she had seen was her own, reflected on the mirrors in the calm water. In the castle there were fairies who kindly helped her with the basic chores. They cooked, cleaned, washed, weaved new clothes for her, This fairies had the shape of flower petals floating in the air, with colors blue, yellow, and red, and a mysterious aura surrounding them. Very different from the image of fairies with human shapes described in books. But, but what they could do was limited. In the end, a castle is a human construction, and magical beings couldn't replace what human hands put together. In any case, even if they could, the princess dreamt of seeing another human face, to hold the hands of someone else, hands like her own, and kiss his forehead. With only books to entertain herself, she inevitably began to yearn for the arrival of a knight to save her, not from any dragon, but from loneliness. However, the castle was surrounded by a thick forest full of spines, sharp as swords and full of beasts just as dangerous. Nobody in their sane mind would think on crossing it and risk his life. Even then, she kept waiting and waiting and waiting, till the beautiful castle began to turn into ruins. The fairies couldn't take care of it forever. Tired of waiting, the princess drank a magical potion that made her fall into a sound sleep, and she wouldn't wake until hearing the kind words of her longed knight. Someone brave who will cross the forest to save her. Someone smart who will find out how to deactivate the traps and solve the riddles of the fairies. Someone kind can look beyond the spell in the mirror, which only reflects those who look deeply, not yearning for riches or glory, but to give a hand to someone who had never been able to hold one. Someone with a loving heart who will know the right words to wake her up. But can someone like that even exist? This time I don't wake up. I was conscious the whole time. It's just that I was unable to perceive my surroundings. The light blocked all my senses. When it finally vanishes, I realize I'm back to the living room of the orphanage. I keep going? No, after looking more carefully, I noticed this place looks like the orphanage, but it's different. None of the 4 doors I had crossed before were there. They disappeared. The walls are made of stone instead of wood, and all the furniture and decoration were replaced by others, more elegant and old. Perhaps too old. Renaissance paintings, jars, and vases. Furniture that looks way too expensive. A castle? That was the first thing that crossed my mind, remembering the words someone whispered to my ear while I was surrounded by the white light. And I shake my head. I don't know where I am. I don't know if I'm getting closer to the exit of this world or not. But I know I have to explore this place. I can feel my heart beat impatiently. Unlike the other worlds I visited, there is something calling me. I stop for a moment and take a deep breath to calm myself. Where should I go? We got a lot of exploration. So so actually, this would actually be a good stopping point for today. I'm pretty sure I'm in the last stretch of the game. I'm not sure how much longer is left to it. It did say, though, on the Steam store page, it did say it was approximately 6 hours long, but it seems to be a little longer than that. So we'll see. Actually, we're gonna find somebody to raid. Need to see who's on right now. Who to be the Let's go. Let us go raid. Feral. Let's go raid Feral. Yep. So, thank you everyone for tuning in today. And I will be back on again Friday, probably a little bit earlier than today. And then to finish off the rest of Connected Hearts, which I am really enjoying. I was not sure how interested in this game I would be, but I am definitely want to see it all. I definitely want to see it all the way to the end. So, once again, thank you everyone for tuning in, and thank you Infinite Kitty 8. Thank you again for the $10. So everyone have a good day, and I will see you again on Friday.